All right, welcome back to the Impossible Versus matches. Halloween Spooktacular. Join with me is my good friend Jose. Jose, say hello.
Hello.
Ooh, it's getting spooky in here already.
Oh,
I'm getting the chills. Just like my recording session with Eden, we are just going to blast through a whole bunch, one scenario uh, per episode, and we're going to have some horror characters. If we've used them already, that's perfectly fine. And also, any horror character that's used during the Halloween specials can come back at any time during the rest of the series. That's cool, because why not? But we're also going to be matching them up with non-horror characters. But we're going to get right into horror versus horror characters. Anything under the umbrella goes. Jose, as usual, you are the guest. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I'm going to make you go first. Here
All
we
right.
go. I'm going to spin.
Go ahead and spin, and I'll tell you if we've used them already during the other sessions.
Okay, we have the Cloverfield monster from Cloverfield.
Okay. Very fun. I have Pennywise.
Excellent. I'm glad I didn't put him on my list because for
Uh,
some reason I knew he was going to be on yours.
yeah, I mean, he's a big name right now. Big name right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
So audience, for those of you who do not know, Pennywise, sometimes a clown, but also a spider.
All
And
right.
he eats kids every 27 years, and he lives in Maine. Like most Stephen, like a lot of Stephen King characters, he lives in Maine.
You
Um,
know, Maine's a scary place, I suppose.
yeah, no. As someone that has been to Maine many times, it's probably one of the least threatening places you could go to.
uh, as a white person.
I don't think it's very racist. It's just that only white people live there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, that's terrifying to any minority, honestly.
Well,
We're
actually,
getting off
yeah,
track.
it's very Get Out.
Yes, yes. Takes a while to get anywhere. The cops are your friends up there for some reason.
Oh, spooky.
Yeah.
But Pennywise is basically he takes the form of what you fear the most. As we see in the movies, he shapeshifts into many different scary creatures to scare the kids. But his main form that he uses is a clown. But his true form is some giant spidery type thing. Go ahead
Mhm.
and tell us a little bit about the Cloverfield monster.
Okay, so the Cloverfield monster, if you looked into any of the, I guess you could say augmented reality like games leading up to the first Cloverfield movie, because it's a J.J. Abrams produced movie.
Oh,
So of course there's all this extra bullshit that's not actually in the movie. Save for like a thing here and there, right? So the first Cloverfield movie, it's a found footage movie of people surviving an American kaiju attack.
okay.
And I remember on behind the scenes stuff, they were talking about how like America doesn't really have any giant kaiju's to represent it. And I was like, what the fuck? What are you talking? What about King Kong? Right?
Yeah, he is the American monster.
Exactly. It was like these people. All right. Anyway, uh, and anyway,
Would you qualify him as a kaiju?
absolutely, he's a giant monster.
Well, at
It
that
doesn't matter if it's a monkey.
no, I mean, like, does it matter that he's like not as big as the other ones? Because at that time it was just Kong can climb the Empire State Building.
Sure,
So
but uh, in just thinking about King Kong versus Godzilla, they're the same height, and
yeah,
you know,
I'm excited for.
like kaiju. No, I'm talking about like the old one. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
like
and I love that one too.
yeah, yeah. So, kaiju's vary in size based on the budget available. So,
Mhm.
uh, you know, King Kong. is gonna get bigger for the next one because Godzilla's a fucking nightmare size right now.
The biggest
big old
Godzilla.
fat boy Godzilla.
Yeah, the biggest Godzilla there is.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie gets me hype. Anyway, you're getting sidetracked. The Cloverfield monster, apparently, based on what I remember from that extra, like, fucking scavenger hunt, like people following clues and shit and source code and all that stuff. There's this corporation, the Slusho Corporation or something like that, where they have like satellites and shit in space. This is apparently explained in the Cloverfield Paradox movie on Netflix, but I haven't seen that yet. So it's just based off of this first movie, right? There's some stuff that happens on the space station, and then something hits the water, like near Coney Island, and then it just grows rapidly and just morphs into this giant monster that like takes the head off the Statue of Liberty clean off, and that's like the thing in the trailer that makes you go like, holy fuck, because it just like barrels down the street and the camera like looks at it and everybody's screaming like, oh my god, right? And in the movie you find out there's more to it than like than just a monster attack in the city, right? You get the occasional glimpse of it, and then you see like stuff dropping off of it in like a news feed that they see.
Yeah,
there's like just some shit dropping off it, and then you see these tiny versions of the Cloverfield monster just overwhelming the army, and you're like, what the fuck? And then the main characters go into the subway. They get attacked by a few of them, and like one person gets like scratched, and she's not feeling well. They get to like the medical tent, and there's this really intense scene where they bring her behind the tent because they're all like, oh, we got an infected one. Her eyes are all like bloodied up and all this kind of stuff. And then just like you see like her behind the screen, she just like fucking explodes, like just everywhere.
Oh.
So there's more of a threat than getting like fucking smashed. And like this thing like takes all kinds of like military, bombardments and all kinds of shit. And I think the only thing that stops it is the hammer down protocol, which I believe is dropping basically a nuke on the city. And then like there's like some classified documents stuff implying that like, oh, we found this in the wreckage of the city after the fact.
Right.
10 Cloverfield Lane is implied to be kind of a sequel to it, that it was the beginning of an alien invasion. But I need to see Cloverfield Paradox because I have no idea.
I've personally never dived into the Cloverfield movies myself. I don't know, they just didn't interest me very much.
I saw 10 Cloverfield Lane while we were at Full Sail. It was March. I think we finished up.
I remember that Snapchat.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things I've ever shot, where Eden thought it was stupid. Devin thought it was great. Dan thought it was okay. And then Doug was asleep. So a wide array of ravings about that.
You couldn't even stage that.
Yeah.
He just was actually asleep.
He was just out. It was great.
I need to have Doug on the show at some point.
He's a good guy.
Oh yeah. How would you describe the appearance of the Cloverfield monster? As I have just Googled it, and I don't like this.
It's a mess. Like, it is not coherent.
No, it is not.
It looks like a bat a little bit. It looks like a naked bat.
Yeah.
No wings.
It's like if you mixed a bat, a rat, and like an orangutan,
Yeah.
but made it
Yeah.
naked, shaved it.
Mm-hmm. And gross.
Yeah, it's quite gross. Yes. So, oh yeah, its face is very bat-like. It's got those like bat ears.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Pennywise and the Cloverfield monster.
Yes.
One of them's big, one of them's not. Um, well, naturally, the Cloverfield monster is making its way to Maine because I mean, why not? It's going across the country anyway.
Yeah. It survived the hammer down protocol.
Yeah, so it happens to end up in Maine at the same time at the during the 27th year. So this is when Pennywise is coming back, and Pennywise, just chilling, doing his thing, absolutely terrifying kids, being like, "Hey, you want some popcorn?"
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And just you know, he doesn't have to work that hard. You can just kill him.
You can just kill them, but I think they explained that kids taste better when they're afraid.
Uh,
I think
well,
that was the reasoning.
Pennywise is doing his thing, being a diddler, and
Just diddling.
yeah, just
New
diddling.
boot diddling.
Yeah, gotta make a song about how he don't diddle kids. So Pennywise is, he's killing, he's doing his thing. This is the, I'm going to use I'm going to go ahead and use the Skarsgård version. So the current Pennywise.
Modern
Um,
day.
yeah, modern retelling, and so he's killing kids, but then here comes the Cloverfield monster. I'm gonna name him Clovey. Um, is rampaging through that. Just as Pennywise is about to grab a kid, here comes a giant kaiju foot, squishes the kid right in front of him.
Just
Like,
out of nowhere.
he's like,
It's not like
what?
Maine has skyscrapers
Yeah,
in Derry.
yeah. Like it is definitely like it cannot hide in anything. But Pennywise doesn't care about any of that. He just cares about the
It's
kid.
broad daylight.
Yeah, it's broad daylight. it's, it's 2 p.m. But Pennywise doesn't care if he sees a giant monster. He's just like, this makes the kids more scared. But it's just when he's about to, just chomp one, just pop ahead. Here comes, the giant leg, and like the visual of this is he's got the kid in like one hand, like in the air, and then the foot just comes down on only the kid and maybe like takes off Pennywise's hand. That doesn't mean anything to him. He just grows another hand back. But he's like, what the fuck? I was about to eat that. And so now he sees that, basically this other bigger monster is, moving in on his turf. So Pennywise has to, do what Pennywise knows and has to now transform into what the Cloverfield monster is afraid of. Which I don't want to know what that is.
Like uh the way the monster like kind of moves in the
Yeah.
movie is
Hmm.
like a new afraid baby, right? Because it's just
Right.
like lashing out, like he has no idea what's going on. Suddenly there's the army shooting at it and blowing it up and all kinds of shit, right? So it's like a fresh animal, like
Yeah.
it's just trying to survive and lashes out and eats everything, right?
Hmm.
So it's hard to say what it's actually afraid of.
Well,
So it could affect Pennywise in the idea that it doesn't have a fear in that regard. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
I could be afraid of roller coasters, and Pennywise can like turn himself into a roller coaster and kill me, right?
Right.
Uh, if you're afraid of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, he can turn into the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and kill you. Uh, So, but when it's an animalistic nature like that, does it matter? Or does just the actual threat of Pennywise existing
Well,
and just having the ability to eat you,
I
is that
would
enough to scare an
well,
animal?
I would assume that just going by how animals are, then whatever Pennywise transforms into has to be bigger than the Cloverfield monster.
Right. It
Uh,
has to be like a predator
yeah, and
to the animal.
I think the absolute most terrifying option would just be, basically imagine the Cloverfield monster as it is, but imagine it looking like Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise. So it's just this giant, this absolute giant, like bigger than the Cloverfield monster would probably be like current Godzilla sized,
Mm-hmm.
just a mangled Victorian era clown, which is an, a sight that I do not want to see. I do not have a fear of clowns, but I mean, if it's a giant clown, then it's scary.
It's
Or
basically
any
like
sort of murderous
Cthulhu
clown.
levels of nonsense that your brain can't function. Because isn't
Right.
technically Pennywise some kind of like elder god monster kind of
Some
thing?
some cocaine filled
Yeah.
abomination.
Yeah.
Um, but he has to turn into something that the Cloverfield monster is afraid of, but the Cloverfield monster doesn't have probably doesn't have like a concept of fear either. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Pennywise being a giant mangled clown is an absolutely terrifying sight to us, but to something else that's like an animal in nature, a clown in particular might not be enough. The fact that it's big is something,
Mm-hmm.
but or we could just forget all this and go the cool route. And Pennywise is now transformed into one of the Pacific Rim robots, and and decides to fight the Cloverfield monster.
Elbow rockets. The Jaegers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pacific Rim.
Okay. Yeah.
Literally one of my top five.
In your top five.
It's one of my top five. Like,
Oh,
no
okay.
bullshit. Pacific Rim is the shit.
I was not as into it, but I know it's badass.
Yeah. Like, I
Um,
think because it's so dumb, I love it.
that there's a whole that's like a whole genre of movies in its own. Um, but no, like basically how this would go is Pennywise would transform into something that probably um scares the Cloverfield monster.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what it is, it has to be bigger than the Cloverfield monster, and maybe it is just him really big because I mean the Cloverfield monster probably has something against people in the first place. So a giant people or a giant terrifying looking person as a
Mm-hmm.
clown would be, with really exaggerated features would probably freak out the Cloverfield monster, and then they both probably have to go at it, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I got.
Yeah. Yeah. He just has to Apache Chief
Right.
all the way up. And then,
Hey, Chuck.
yeah. And then just grapple with him. And
Yeah,
go from
which
there and see how that
is
wins.
which I mean paints a picture. This is the second giant clown we've talked about in like a week. um,
Okay.
Pennywise has been used on the show before. Dylan put him against The Witcher, which was pretty interesting.
That
Match.
seems like
So,
a good fight.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to watch that. Um, Meanwhile, giant clown versus the Cloverfield monster. Well, we can't all be winners. That's what this show's about.
Yeah.
You know what? If you have an idea for what the Cloverfield monster would be afraid of, put it in the comments below. Like and subscribe.